right, we go live in 4.5 minutes.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan, and I'm the pastor here, and it's good to be with you on another Saturday night, the Saturday before Christmas. How about that? The Saturday night. I mean, it's 1 week away, right? Woo! Anxiety just went up a little bit for some of y'all. Hey, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees, and what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection And for those of you joining us online, we're so glad you're part of this community, and we look forward to your participation in this gathering of people every single week. So welcome, whatever state or country you're joining us from, whether it's live or whether it's throughout the week. We're just glad you're part of us. You are us. Love y'all. Glad you're here. A few things you need to know about. Next Saturday, like I just said, is Christmas. So I said this last week. I want to remind y'all, we do not have a service Christmas Day. So don't come here next Saturday. Doors will be locked. But we will, we're going to record a message this week, and we will launch that message on social media and our app and website and YouTube on Christmas Day. So be looking for it if you need a little Christmas message lift up. Because for some of y'all that day, that's going to bring some family dysfunction. And you're going to need a little peace and joy in your life. So just be ready for it. All right, y'all, a couple other things happening. First, a big prayer for Alyssa Zitech. She's our director of director of Free Kids and Family Empowerment. Her grandpa passed away a couple of days ago. So she was on a plane this morning to join the funeral tomorrow. And so prayers for her, prayers for the family. And I also want to say, if you have a love or even a liking for children at all, we are looking for more volunteers to help on Saturday nights with our kids. I mean, we have more kids than we've ever had in this community before, and so that's a cool thing. It's an awesome thing. It's growing, which means we need your help. We don't need you to do it every week, but if you could consider maybe signing up to volunteer to help out with the kids, maybe it's once every couple of months or once a quarter, we would be so grateful. In the hallway, there's a sign-up sheet if you're interested in volunteering. We could really use you. So if that speaks to you at all, put your name on the volunteer interest sheet and someone will be in touch with you soon. Hey, let me also give a big shout out to our tech team in the back, Danny and Drew and Sydney and Bobby and AJ. Man, they have been busting their butts every week to just make sure cameras are working and screens are working. And you probably noticed I have a different mic this week because we've had mic issues the last couple of weeks, and we're still going to have issues. We are people with issues, aren't we? So this is not perfection, but we're just trying different things out to see what works in this new space and with a new system. And so lots of grace. Thank you for bearing with us. And a huge thank you for the tech team for doing what they do week in and week out. Grateful for y'all, love y'all, glad you're here. Okay, we had some other announcements. Did I get them all? I think I got them all. I want to introduce you. Actually, I'm not going to introduce you to anyone. I'm just going to have you watch the screen. His name is Jeff Gostovich. Is he in the house tonight? Oh, there's Jeff. Jeff and I, we did a little video this week, interviewed Jeff because it's really important for him, this mission of breaking the silence of addiction. So I asked him to talk a little bit about why that mission was important to him. And so we'll show the full interview. I'll post it and send it out to you all on Monday. But here's just a little 2-minute clip of the interview. Check it out.
What was the darkness like?
Crushing. Lonely. The darkness for me was the most away from God I've ever been. At least I felt it was. He was there the whole time, but I didn't know it. I was isolating myself to a point where I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to pick up my phone for days at a time. And that's the exact opposite of who I was. And that was crushing, to the point where last May, after oil prices crashed to minus $40 a barrel, and 6 weeks later I'm in the hospital, put myself there through drinking myself into a pulmonary embolism situation that caused me to be in ICU for 3 days and detox for 3 days after that. That's where I found the rooms of AA. It's where it's led to me joining you, and I pulled out of that darkness. Thank God.
And we say, Jeff, this would surely make you stop drinking, right? I mean, 3 days in the ICU, or I don't know what the doctor said to you, but I'm assuming they said, Jeff, stop drinking. And so this would be enough to get you to stop, but it wasn't, right?
It wasn't. Found myself drinking again 6 months after that. I went 6 months without it, and I was rah-rah, telling everybody
You beat it.
I'm recovered.
Yeah.
Look at me now. And that's what got me into trouble, is thinking I had it beat. Because as soon as I thought that, it proved to me that it's always going to be there. And it took me down and harder this time. Not physically. I didn't put myself in an ICU because of blood clotting issues. I just damaged my life more. I damaged the people around me, the people I love the most, my family, mom and dad. I know I've hurt you more than anybody, and you don't deserve that. And that seems to get progressively worse. Yeah. You hurt the ones you love the most, especially when drinking. Each time I've lapsed, that the progression of this disease is very palpable, very strong, because it's so true. I don't care whether it's 3 drinks or 30. That damage that I do is way worse than the last time. The stigma of addiction today is the number one oppressor, I think, of recovery. Yep. And the more we get the word out that it's okay to share, it's okay to be not okay.
Yeah, and not only is it okay, it actually saves lives.
It saved mine.
See the whole, I think it's 16, 17 minutes. Monday will be your opportunity. Well, like I said, I'll throw it on social and YouTube and send it out to y'all. So Monday, look for it. Brother Jeff. All right, y'all. Hey, we are in the Advent week of joy. To remind you what Advent is, it's the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas. It's that time of expectant waiting for something new to happen in the world. It's this fundamental, profound belief that God hasn't given up on the world. And so tonight, we're going to light the Advent candle of joy. And I've invited Dan and Cindy Rapp to read the prayer and light 3 candles. Come on up.
Can you hear me? This evening, we light 3 candles, the candles of hope, peace, and tonight, the candle of joy. This candle reminds us that we have reason to be joyful, even in the midst of strife. We remember that the angel proclaimed Christ's birth as good news of great joy to all people. We enter into the story of simple joy again this year, and we celebrate today with joyful hearts and commit ourselves to spreading that joy to the world around us.
It takes all kinds. That's right. Joy is pink. Thank you, Dan and Cindy. It's in our notes for next year when we do this to get just a regular lighter so you don't hear the constant clicking. Thank you, guys. Welcome to joy. Speaking of joy, the way we begin here at Free Spiritual Community is to celebrate together. We lift up all the good stuff together. We believe that God joins us in the good stuff. So we lift up things like sobriety anniversaries and birthdays and all the good things happening in life, the new jobs you've gotten or the new whatever it is, we want to lift it up. And I realize for some of you, this is a vulnerable act to lift up your joys in front of other people, but everyone in this room is going to join you in joy. And online, there's going to be 1,000 people throughout the week that join you in these celebrations. So let's celebrate together. Here's how we do it. We take 3 minutes for the online community. Y'all can just drop them in the comments. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, drop it in the comments, and we'll read a few of those afterwards. And if you're in person, Danny will have a mic, and he'll bring you a mic, and you can just say it into the mic. We don't need the whole dissertation on the celebration, just a sentence or two of what you're celebrating. So take 3 minutes, and then we'll join back together. is in the back. You going to join me up here, honey? Man, for those of you that are joining us online, we just had some, I don't know what y'all are saying online because I haven't read them, but man, in the house we were celebrating 2 years of sobriety, 1 year of sobriety, 3 months, 3 weeks. Shoot, we had other ones too. Yeah, son back who was missing, and man, just good stuff. And a new baby's coming into the community. Man, can I say who it is? Okay, yeah, not the name of the baby because I don't even know. Chandra and Andrew are pregnant. They're going to have a baby for all you online people who missed it. Pregnant and going to have a baby. That's the first time I've said that.
You never know.
It's kind of implied. All right, well, do y'all know Tammy Canada? Yeah, I'm glad you're here, Tammy.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Were you
guys.
slinging coffee all night? I didn't even see you.
I smell like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do.
I can smell you. I can smell you. All right, why don't you take the first one?
Hey, Mike. He says, celebrating my raise at work. So grateful that my recovery has allowed me to be a valuable employee and for every second with my grandchildren. You love those grandkids.
There you
We know
go,
this.
Mike. We'll celebrate that with you, buddy.
Chicago. We got Chicago in the house.
And we do have Chicago in the house. We have Jason Burke in the house, too. He says, I celebrate 9 months of sobriety on Tuesday, and me and Tracy close on our home Wednesday. God is good. So happy for you,
Awesome.
Jason and Tracy. Way to go on 9 months, dude. I know it's been a journey.
Before Christmas. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it is. Awesome.
Good job, Jace. Mr. Moore says, my name is Eric, and I need prayer for my recovery. I'm struggling at the moment, and I have a case of the F-its. Been clean since August 5th, and I need help. We will keep you in our thoughts and prayers, too, as we move throughout the night. But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, Eric, hey, I'm glad you're with us tonight. And for those of you online that know exactly what he's talking about, or for those of you here in the house that are online, maybe it's an opportunity for you to jump on your phone right now and give Eric all kinds of love and encouragement, because y'all know what it's like. You know we need that. So do your thing, y'all. Eric, I'm glad you're here, celebrating with you. Do we have another one? Yes, Stephen.
Hey, Steven.
Is this mine or yours?
That's you.
I talk too much between each one, and then I forget.
Dissertation.
See, I got to stop doing that. Stephen says the girls and grandchildren will be home during Christmas week. Stephen, we're
Cool.
celebrating that with you,
Awesome.
dude. All right, let's do one more. You take it.
Okay. Hey, Greg, he was in the house. I think he will be
He
back
went to
in the
let
house.
the dogs out.
Okay. Grateful to be able to watch free on Facebook. Had to be in 2 places at once. There you go. Well, I'll see you soon again.
Hope the dogs are all right, Greg. All right, Tammy, thank you for joining me up here. I've got to open my phone and see what notes I'm leaving out. Oh, we're going to move into a message on joy. How about that? Before we do that, though, let's take a little look at the series video. All right, let's spend some time together for the next few minutes talking about and exploring simple joy, shall we? Now, the big book of, for those of you that aren't familiar, it's called the Big Book of AA, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It tells us this on page 133. I want to read it with you. It says, we are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. We cannot subscribe to the belief that this life is a vale of tears, though it once was just that for many of us, but it is clear that we made our own misery. God didn't do it. So let's just stop there. I mean, what does it mean to be joyous? We are sure God wants you to be joyous. What does it mean to be joyous? What does joy look like? So now, about twice every year, I share with you all some just basic, brief observations on joy, because I think it's really important to explore joy in our own lives and the joy in the lives around us and where we're seeing joy in the world. So tonight, I want to share with you 2 very brief and simple observations on joy. Number 1, joy always invites us into the present moment. And number 2, joy is generous and it never keeps to itself. Joy always invites us into the present moment, doesn't it? So here's the deal. Selah, our 11-year-old daughter, she got a microphone this week and a karaoke app. Yeah, y'all see where I'm going with this. Sunday night, Tammy and I are getting ready to go to bed. We go upstairs. We hear all this commotion and laughter and singing coming out of the girls' bedroom. So we both walked in, said, "What's going on?" Selah says, "Poppy, you have to try this karaoke. It is so fun." So for the next 2 hours, we stayed up late that night doing karaoke. Now here's the thing, y'all, and this is actually true, all right? When I'm in my car or when I'm in the shower, the 2 places I like to sing, I promise y'all, I sound a lot like Elton John, Bon Jovi, Eminem, NF, even a little Michael Jackson in there, maybe some Mariah Carey. But here's the deal. When your 11-year-old daughter hits that play button and it plays back in your ear because you're wearing these earbuds, man, it sounded like I swallowed a goat. I couldn't figure out. I didn't sound anything like I thought. But this part's actually true. For the next 2 hours straight, I mean, we experienced that kind of pure, simple joy and laughter. And see, what I can tell you is that moment mattered. In fact, that moment, it mattered in ways that I can't even really describe to you in words, but it was very simple ways. In fact, do you ever have those moments where something that matters to you finds a way to matter even more? Yeah, well, we have these moments all the time, right? Now, our ancient Hebrew ancestors, so the people of the Old Testament, they had a word for this. I've talked about this word here before, but they called this kavode. Say it with me, kavode. Yeah, K-A-V-O-D. And see, they referred to the significance of things, the awareness of that significance. They referred to it as kavode. And it started out as this business term. It would refer to like the weight of the money involved in a transaction. But then it became a more metaphorical term, and it referred to the weightiness of a situation. It's those moments where you say, this moment matters. Kavode comes along, and you can find this word all throughout the Old Testament. It comes along and it says, our lives are profoundly interconnected, and God is in all of this. God is in all of these moments, and that's why all of these moments matter, and better pay attention, stay present in all of it. You see, and here's the other truth. When I was stuck in my addiction, battling the bottle, some of y'all will know exactly what I'm talking about. I wasn't present. Man, I wasn't present in the moment, especially if the moment happened to be in the evening, because there were so many evenings of disappearing into literally a dark basement. Because, man, my drinking, it took me to fun places. I would isolate in a dark basement so I could drink the way I wanted to drink. Talk about joy. And what I can tell you is I would be creating my own misery, creating misery around me, blaming God. God, why did you put me in this situation? Why'd you let me experience all that pain? God, how come you don't rescue me? How come I've asked you to do something about it and you just sit there like on your lazy butt and don't do anything? Where are you, God? And what I can tell you is I was filled with all kinds of fear and shame. And do y'all know how fear works? You get some fear in your life. Fear will always try to pull you into the future. Fear will always try to get you to believe all the lies. Man, is today going to look just like it did yesterday? And is tomorrow going to be just like it was today? And is there any way out of this? I mean, is anything going to change? Is this just the way it is? And y'all, I don't have to tell you how shame works. You know how shame works. Shame will always try to drag you into your past. Shame will always try to get you to remember who you thought you were. Man, you're just a piece of garbage. You might as well keep drinking anyways. Do you remember that thing you said? Remember that feeling you had? You might as well drink anyway. You're only hurting yourself. You're not hurting people around you. Isn't that the great lie of addiction? You're only hurting yourself. Joy says, stay present. Stay present in this moment, because this moment is all you have. Joy comes along and says, keep on singing. Sing it again, because this time you might actually sound like Bon Jovi. And if you don't, your 11-year-old daughter is going to let you know that you don't through her facial expressions. Joy always invites us into the present moment. Is it true? You know, I was meeting with my friend Matt this week. Matt's somewhere tonight here. I was looking around. I don't see Matt. I thought, oh, there he is. He's in the back. You know, Matt and I were meeting this week, and a little bit of Matt's backstory. There he is in all his glory. You know, about 4 years ago, Matt was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. And the odds weren't exactly in his favor, if you know what I mean. And so he came into Free one afternoon this week, and he came in for coffee. Then we played a couple of ping pong games. I won't tell you who won because that would make me look arrogant. Sorry, Matt, dude, but you know it's true. After our ping pong games, we sat and had a little chat. And see, Matt he was in a good mood, like Matt generally is, but he had some extra joy on one day this week. And he had recently come back from the doctor, and he heard those magic words that there was no more evidence of cancer in his body, and it's coming up on 3 years, almost at the 3-year mark, which is, from what I understand, a major milestone in this journey. And see, I remember shortly after he found out that he had this cancer, some of us, we gathered in his living room, and we actually anointed him with oil, and we prayed for Matt. And we were talking, and I said, Matt, dude, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to preach on joy this week. So anything you might say to me, it might be used in the sermon. And I said, dude, I get how you have joy now. Like, that makes sense to me. You got good news. But dude, the thing about you is you stayed with joy throughout this process, and you stayed centered. Not perfect, but centered. I mean, how did you do that? Because that's the really fascinating part. And his eyes filled up with some water, and he took the hat off, the one that he's wearing in that picture, the one that he's wearing tonight. He took the hat off, and he pointed to these letters, RFN. He said, God brought me to the realization that all I have is right freaking, except it's not that word, it's the other word, but we have kids here. All I have is right freaking now. Do you see how joy is always pulling us and inviting us into the present moment? He said, so how I treat my family, it matters. How I treat my wife through this, it matters. How I treat the people around me, it matters. Do you see how joy is always inviting us into the present? Because all we have is right freaking now. Now, there's a beautiful story in the New Testament in Mark's gospel. Keep in mind, there's 4 gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In Mark's gospel, there's this beautiful story. It's about Jesus and a woman and Jesus' disciples. So like his talmids, his students, the ones who are closest to him. And this story is found in Mark chapter 14. I want to share it with you in just a moment. A little backstory on this, because we're going to read verses 3 through 9. But verses 1 and 2, the backstory is the religious and political leaders of the day were plotting to kill Jesus. They were setting forth the thing to move the thing forward to kill him. And then in verse 3 through 9, you get this really beautiful story. And then right after that, we read, you can go home and read it tonight if you want. We see that the religious and political leaders of the day were actually quite successful because Jesus was a major disruption to the Roman Empire, the most powerful empire the world has ever seen. And they put him to death on a Roman execution stake that we know as a cross. So here's what you get right in the middle of all that. Remember when we talked about the messy middle? Yeah, this is part of that messy middle. Jesus understood something about joy. Here's how the story goes. While Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the table, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment of nard, and she broke open the jar and poured the ointment on his head. But some were there who said to one another in anger, these are the ones closest to Jesus, his students, his disciples, why was the ointment wasted in this way? For this ointment could have been sold for more than 300 denarii and the money given to the poor. And they scolded her. But Jesus said, leave her alone. Why do you trouble her? She has performed a good service for me, for you always have the poor with you, and you can show kindness to them whenever you wish, but you will not always have me. She has done what she could. She has anointed my body beforehand for its burial, which, by the way, is a first century Jewish custom to anoint the body before burial. So Jesus is talking about his own death here. He says, truly, I tell you, wherever the good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her. Interesting, isn't it? Jesus was always pulling and inviting those around him into the present moment. And it's interesting, isn't it? Jesus' disciples, the ones closest to him, they're the ones who completely missed it. They were future tripping. They had that kind of fear that led into anger. Jesus, why would she do this? She can't do this. We could have in the future done this thing with the money. We could have helped a lot of people who really need it. Why would you allow her to do this? Jesus, why didn't you stop this moment? But see, the thing about Jesus, if you read through the Gospels, you see that Jesus was always seeing the things that were hovering just beneath the surface. And Jesus was seeing this beautiful moment of joy right in the midst of all this chaos, right in the midst of all this brokenness. And Jesus did not rob this woman of that moment. You see, he understood that joy is always found in relationships and actual people. Which leads to the second observation on joy. Joy is generous, and it never keeps to itself. You know what I mean by that? You can raise the roof, Stephanie. So I was meeting with my friend Julie earlier this week. Man, I've experienced a lot of joy this week, apparently. I was meeting with my friend Julie, and the holidays are particularly tough for her this year. She's deep in grief. Her youngest daughter, Jessica, who's 22 years old, just died of a drug overdose in September. And we were talking about grief. We sat right back in the wagon coffee room, drinking our coffee, talking about grief and how grief is sneaky. Man, right when you think you got it, that thing jumps up and bites you in the butt. You think you have it one moment, then it gets you. And there's no real way like around the grief or over the grief or under the grief. You got to walk right through this stuff. And so we were talking about grief and we prayed together. And then at the end of our conversation, I said, so what brought you in here today, Julie? And she said, well, actually, I came to buy a bunch of little bags of wagon coffee. I said, really? What are you doing with a bunch of little bags of wagon coffee? And she said, well, actually, I'm putting together these gift bags for all of the ladies in the sober living house where Jessica at one time lived. Here's a picture of some of the bags she's got together as of now that will soon be in the hands of the ladies at the sober living house. I mean, it's true. Joy is generous and it never keeps to itself, even in the midst of profound brokenness. Remember when we talked about that last week, that on the shelf of your heart can sit joy? as it rests right beside deep pain and sadness and injustice and brokenness. And my brothers and sisters, it's worth saying to you that for many of you, this is nothing new, but it's a good time to be reminded of it. Stuff will never buy you real joy. And let me just say, there's nothing wrong with stuff. There's actually nothing wrong with nice stuff. But see, I get into trouble when I start buying into that lie that that thing, whatever that thing is, that thing, the nice car, the nice new shoes, the nice jewelry, the nice clothes, whatever that thing is, if I'm expecting those things to fill what's broken in here or to fill some sort of gap, it'll never work. Because it doesn't create real joy in me or others. You see, joy happens when you give yourself to the moment. Joy happens when you actually give yourself to the people around you. That's the thing that keeps our hearts open to God's work in the world. And by the way, people, you actual people, are the primary way we live out a relationship with God. It's how we experience God. You know Mother Teresa. Y'all know Mother Teresa? You've heard of her? You remember she gave her life to working with the poorest of the poor in the city of Calcutta in India. And there's a story that's told that a billionaire businessman was so interested in her work, he flew from the United States to meet with Mother Teresa, Saint Mother Teresa, and he was so interested in what she was doing. And so he got the tour, and then he asked to meet with her, and he pulled her to the side and he said, listen, I want to give you I'm prepared to write a very significant check because I want to invest in this work. And you know what she did? She looked at him and she said, no, we don't need that. She said, it seems like you want to create real change in the world. She said, go home and love your family. You want real joy? And I'm not talking about that kind of happy that lives and is rooted in denial. You know those people? They always got the big smile. They're always happy. Nothing ever affects them. They're just always going to put on the happy. They're going to wear that mask. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the joy that sustains you. Keep it simple. Start where you are because God is in that place. Let joy captivate you in the moment and be kind and generous to others even in the midst of your brokenness. Because listen, you don't always know the story. You don't know what the other person is going through. Your generosity, your kindness towards them, it may impact their lives in ways you could have never dreamed of. And I'll close with this. You know, the other day as my friend Matt was getting ready to leave, he said, Rev, he calls me Rev, man, I've learned something in my life, and it's just really changed my life, and I try to share it with all my groups and all the men that I encounter. I said, well, do tell. He said, you know, it's not enough to just say, I love you. He said, we have to add the word because. We have to add, I love you because, and then finish the sentence. It's pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? You want to create real joy? You want to be a part of the joy creation? Don't let tonight pass you by without telling someone that you love them, and then go the extra mile. Tell them why you love them. And if you're joining us online, I encourage you right now. In fact, even if you're not online, if you're here tonight in the house, you can get out your phone. I encourage you, go to the Facebook thread, tag that person, tag someone, and let them know why you love them. Because we say it too often, though. Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. Not why. Because all we have is right freaking now. And joy always invites us into the right freaking now. So take a moment, reflect. All right, y'all, welcome back. So if you are new with us this evening, we always have each and every Saturday night. It is a tradition here at Free that we have a guest storyteller join me up in our old space. It was just a table. Here we have an actual living room. How about that? Each and every week we have a guest storyteller to come share some of their experience around the theme that we're talking about. And tonight I get to introduce you to my friend Pete Peters, who's in the house with us tonight. And man, when this dude shares, I always learn something from him. He's just always dropping these wisdom bombs on us. And I know Pete's not going to disappoint tonight. No pressure, Pete. So anyway, I want y'all to help me welcome my friend Pete Peters. Pete, I'm glad you're with me, dude.
With you too.
We're just going to jump into things. Now, Pete, I dig the purple socks, dude. They match the purple sweater. You're looking good tonight.
Bath night.
Bath night. Your wife will confirm this later. So Pete's in recovery. You know what? I asked Pete to start with. What did a life devoid of joy? So what did life look like for you prior to an encounter with joy?
It's pretty full. A lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of neat stuff.
Yeah, it sounds exciting.
Yes.
Sounds like being in a basement alone and isolated.
Yep.
You know, one of the things Pete told me when we were meeting, he said, hold your breath. Remember this?
Yeah.
Hold your breath.
You want to know about that?
Then you had to let it out. Mm-hmm. He said, well, why'd you take a breath? I said, because I had to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you said that's how drinking was for you. That's what the bottle brought you to.
Drinking and alcohol, yeah. I'd rather have booze or drugs than breathe if I could have.
And so what was it when you said a life without joy for you is when you put the booze and the drugs above everything else? What'd that look like?
There's some people here who will understand what I'm saying. What it looked like was, it was one, first of all, and I need to get this out here because I didn't bring this up, a life devoid of joy. There's no God, there's no spiritual presence in that life. And so basically it was a life that was dependent upon me controlling my environment. I was in such fear and such anger that I had to be in control of everything. Because if something wasn't in my control, then it wasn't a good day. And I had a lot of not good days.
And so when joy entered your life, so walk us through a little bit what that looked like. And I thought it was so, it was a moving encounter for me to hear you talk about Regina, your wife. You said Regina saved my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it like?
Well, I guess I'm going to tell a quick story, just a quick story. What it was like was I went through, the drinking and the drugs and all that kind of stuff. And at a certain point, I had to stop. I was able to stop with the help of God and another friend. And I remember celebrating, I think it was a 60-day chip. I came home and I was just happy. I was just on top of the world. Like Snoopy skipping through the grass, right? Mm-hmm. And I told my wife, I said, Brad, I'm feeling good. And she said, God, yeah, you look good too. You're doing okay. And I said, yeah, this is wonderful. And she said, well, you need to leave. And my first thought was, why do I need to leave the room? I'm talking about this joy that I'm having. Yeah. And she's like, no, you got to get the hell out of the house. And I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And so I literally was kicked out of the house after having some sobriety. But it was the best thing in the world that could have happened to me.
Yeah. And you talked about how you were out for a few months, kicked out of the house, not out drinking, but kicked out of the house. Yeah. And then what it was like when she agreed to start dating you again.
Yeah, man, that was cool. Yeah, I used to always ask her, can we do this? Can we do that? And we were separated, and she was like, she would say 2 words to this day that give me PTSD when I hear them. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, we'll see.
We'll see. And it was like, no, I don't want to, we'll see. I want to do this now. And finally one day she said, okay. And it shocked me. But she said, you got to date me. You got to date me all over again. And that was the start of us getting back together. And that, aside from having a relationship with God, that was the most joyful moment that I had in my life.
How many years have you been married? Come on, dude, this is come on, Pete. That was a joke, right? Now you can tell us the number.
Yeah, we've been married for 41 years.
41 years.
Yeah.
Now, there was also this profound moment for Pete when you shared with me that Regina looked at you in the eyes and said, why are you so angry? Stop being so angry and open your heart to people because you have so much to offer. So, Pete, tell us, because I think a lot of people will resonate with this. What does that kind of anger look like? I mean, how does that anger just rip through the heart and steal joy?
There's never any peace. There's never any peace. I carried a lot of anger for a long time. And it there's some historical significance to it and all that kind of stuff. But I carried a lot of anger and a lot of fear. Yeah. And one day I was complaining about something, and she did. She said to me, why are you always so angry? Because I was complaining about, I forget what it was now. And I just looked at her, and she said, don't you realize that if you open up your heart and open up your arms to people, that can do much more than the anger that you're exhibiting. And she told me something that I never thought about myself. She said, you have a lot to offer. Yeah. You have a lot to offer. I never considered myself as someone who had a lot to offer. Just because for a long time I didn't like me. Yeah. I'd look in the mirror, I didn't like that dude. But you remember what I said when you asked me?
I do. Yeah. I asked Pete, I said, what does joy mean to you? And you said, I like me.
Yeah, I like me. I look in the mirror and I like me. That dude's okay, you know?
Yeah. And do y'all see how profound that is? Because how many of you have battled shame and the I hate what I see in the mirror? It's sometimes why in this recovery community, not looking at any of y'all, but sometimes in the recovery community, you get on the Facebook or the IG and you see all these selfies because finally we see something that we like.
Yeah. Afraid to admit it most times, but we like it.
Yeah. And don't you think God wants us to say, yeah, we're creating God's image. You should like you. This is good.
Absolutely.
You're made with life and breath and goodness and worth.
And we're supposed to pass that on. Supposed to give it to other people.
Yeah. Now, the other way you described joy was you said it was the verb of humility.
Yeah.
Tell us what you meant by that.
What I meant by that, one of the definitions of humility is putting the needs of other people ahead of your own.
Yeah.
And so constantly trying to be aware of other people who have real needs. And I say that because some of these first world wants that we think are needs are just BS.
Yeah.
You know?
Will you share with them the story you shared with me last week when we were standing right in the corner?
About
the, you have this tradition, but I don't know how many years y'all have been doing it, but you buy, you take groceries to different families.
Yeah, it's something that we used to do with the kids when the kids were living at home. Now I love them, they're tax-paying citizens. But when one of the things, people always talk about buying a turkey dinner for Thanksgiving or for Christmas, and Regina came up with the idea one day that we should get the name of a family and buy them a week's worth of groceries, because what happens after, the turkey's gone that day?
All the leftovers are gone.
All the leftovers are gone. People are still hungry. So we would get a name of a family, buy a week's worth of groceries, and then we would take our kids with us, because the idea is we need to pass that on, right? We need that thing that we're doing. We need to pass that on. And if we have time, I'll tell you a funny story about a quilt. But we would, in some cases, we would do it anonymously. In other cases, we would actually go into the home, take our kids into the home, spend time with the family, and give them the groceries. Last year, my wife's dad, my father-in-law Jim, passed away, and at the memorial, we were just having some finger food, that kind of thing. We made a decision that we want to make sure we go to each table, thank people, ask them how they knew Jim, and so forth. And I happened to walk to one table, and there was a family, mom, dad, and a daughter. Daughter must have been in her 20s. And I asked, at first said, thank you for being here. And then I asked, well, how did you know Jim? And the wife said, you don't recognize us, do you? And I said, your daughter looks kind of familiar, but I really don't. And she said, years ago, you and your wife bought groceries to our house one Thanksgiving. And it floored me because, and what that told me is that we may do these things and we still forget about them, but the people that we do them for, they don't forget.
Yeah.
They don't forget. And I wish I could say, that was my great idea that we should do, but I live with someone who really cares about other people.
Dude, she really has saved your life, hasn't she?
Yeah, man.
Way to go, Regina. I'm glad you're here tonight, too.
Yeah, I don't mind admitting it.
This guy would be a complete mess without Regina. And, it's also why when we talk about joy, we have to talk about joy in two ways. One, the joy we experience in our persons and our families, whatever in the world, but also the joy that we create.
Yeah.
And that's why I was talking about when you're creating joy, when you're involved in these joy projects in the world, you never know who you are impacting. You never know the backstory. So sometimes the reward's not in it. Sometimes there's no reward at all for you, but you got a beautiful gift in it, right?
I rarely disagree with pastors, but I will this time.
Disagree with me, Pete.
Yes.
Make me look bad.
No, I can't do that.
Okay, don't do that. Don't do that.
My experience with joy in being of service to other people, it's not important if they see it, if they know it.
Yeah.
The mere fact that I've been able to do something for someone else, isn't that what we're here for?
Yeah.
Do I need to know that they really...
That it made a difference?
Yeah, I don't need to know that.
Great point.
But I'm here. My dad told me one time, when I asked him why he was doing all this stuff for other people, he said to me, if I affect the life of one person in my lifetime, I will have done what I was put here to do. And this was a man that didn't go to church. I don't think I ever saw him. I saw him go to church twice. I think one was a Mother's Day and the other one was his memorial. You should say that.
Let's be honest. I mean, some of the most joyful people have never stepped foot inside the doors of a church.
Absolutely.
In my experience.
But you know what? I'm fortunate in that I'm the recipient of generations of people who were raised to think that way.
Yeah.
You know, my mother used to say, let a stranger in, it could be Jesus. And I always used to go, I'm not letting anybody in that door. But that was the way, that was the way that she thought.
So, Pete, let's close with this. If you could, there's a lot of people struggling during the holidays, struggling to get sober, struggling to keep sober, struggling to love their loved one who can't get sober or stay sober. Mm-hmm. What hope do you give? Where's the joy?
My goodness. The hope that I can give is that, one, the struggle is less arduous if you've got a relationship with a power outside yourself. Okay? It's not that difficult to develop. And all you got to do, you don't have to really have it. All you got to do is be willing to have it. My experience has been the world changes for me when I'm willing to look at it in a different way. Okay? If all I got to do is be willing, and that's what, this program that we talk about all the time, all it says is, all you can do is be willing, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to part the Red Sea. You don't have to do just be willing. I had a guy tell me one time, just be willing to be willing.
Yeah.
Okay? And the other thing, quite honestly, figure out a way to do something for somebody else.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be a lot. I don't have to give thousands of dollars. I don't have to give trucks. I don't have to give things.
Yeah.
Sometimes giving a smile to somebody is enough, because we don't know who doesn't get a smile.
Yeah.
And think about that. Right? We don't know.
Pete, that was like a mic drop, dude.
Boom.
Yeah, joy is generous.
Yeah, it is, man.
Thanks for being here tonight, Pete. Are you going to stick around a little bit?
Yes, I will be. I'll have a booth out in the auditorium.
Talk to Pete before you leave, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to have a booth out in the back. And Pete, I'm grateful for you, brother. I love you, dude. Thanks for coming here tonight. You want that? I'll take this.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you to all of our guest storytellers who, I wore my boots tonight. These jeans are a little tight on the bottom. So bear with me a moment. To all of our guest storytellers who just who say yes to an opportunity to come and sit in the living room to share some experience and strength and hope with y'all. And so thank you, Pete. Thank you to all the many others who have been part of this storytelling project. When we share our stories, as Jeff said in the video, it has a way of setting others free. Whew, that's powerful stuff. Now, how we end here in this community is we always share our heartaches together, the same as we do our celebrations, because we really suck at carrying those hard, heavy, burden heartaches on our own, so we carry them together. So we'll do just like we did with celebrations. We'll take 3 minutes. It's your opportunity to get vulnerable, to let others in on your pain, because there's something really profound when you let others, an entire community, in on what's happening in here. Now, again, it's not your time to give a dissertation on your pain, but it's just a sentence or two of what we can lift you up with this week, what we can encourage you about, what we can pray for, to connect with one another. So if you're online, put your comments in the YouTube or the Facebook comments, and we'll read a few after we're done. And if you're here in person, we'll do the same way we did celebrations. A mic will come to you. You can share that way. Whatever heartache you're carrying, we can lift it up together. So let's take 3 minutes. Oh, Chandra's joining me up here. Chandra, who's having a baby. Pregnant and having a baby. Is this on? You're on, girl. Chandra is also the lead of our prayer team. So Chandra sends us out a beautiful email each week of everything shared. I mean, she condenses it into sentences, and we pray for you all through the week. So if you drop a comment in, we pray for you all through the week, and Chandra keeps us on track with that. So thank you for your work in that each and every week.
Yeah.
I know you do. Thank you for
Absolutely.
that. It's a great gift. All right, you take the first one, Chandra, of our online community.
Okay, Monty Voss says, prayers for my friend who lost her nephew to cancer this week, for my nephew diagnosed with cancer, and all the families suffering from the tornadoes this week. May they receive strength and joy. Thank you, Monty, for sending that in. And I mean, cancer just affects everybody. It affects every family. So thank you for lifting that up.
Prayers for you. All right, Karen Coffee says, please lift me up so I find a job. Thank you. Karen, we are lifting you up. We pray that you find a job, and thank you for being a part of this community and sharing that with us.
Deborah Hall says, I spent last Sunday night in the hospital because I threatened suicide. I only stayed there for 4 hours, then I was sent home. Deborah, thanks for being vulnerable. That's a hard thing to bring up, but if anybody in this community knows, reach out to her, let her know she's not alone and that she doesn't have to walk through that despair by herself.
Yeah, y'all send her some love like you do. And Deborah, it was good to see you last week. I know you were here. It was great to see you last week. I hope you come next week. Don't come next week, it's Christmas. Come the week after. Deborah, thank you for sharing that with us. Christy says, prayers for my friend who lost her mom yesterday. Christy, lifting up your friend who lost her mom. Thank you for sharing that with us. Prayers for her, your friend, this week. Let's do one more.
Okay. Kathy Pennington says, praying for my daughter's recovery journey. So glad she is there with you all tonight. Aww.
Well, now we need to know
I
who
know.
Kathy's daughter
like,
is, not to make things. Oh, Jackie, come on now. Jackie, I'm glad you're here.
Yes,
Very
so
good
glad.
to have you here. Kathy, thanks for joining us tonight. Glad you're here too.
Yeah.
Chandra, it's great to be with you tonight.
Oh.
I can't wait to meet the baby. Thank you, Chandra. Hey, listen, just if you can just continue in the vulnerability, raise your hand if you experience some grief and heartache during this holiday season. Yeah, keep your hand up a minute. Can y'all just look around the room? Yeah, you're not alone. I know sometimes it feels like, oh man, I'm totally alone. No one else understands what I'm going through. You're not alone. That's a great lie we buy into. Before we close in prayer, let me say a word about giving, because it is your generous giving here that allows us to do what we do. And I know for many of you, giving is a spiritual practice. We have a couple of boxes set out. There's one there, and then there's one right outside these doors. It's your generous giving that keeps this ministry, this organization, this mission of breaking the silence of addiction and creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. It's what keeps this thing going. Let me rephrase that. It's one of the things that keeps this thing going. And so I want to change it up a little bit tonight, because Pete gave me this great idea, and I said, I'm going to steal that Saturday night, because he learned this idea somewhere else. And if you plan on giving tonight, whatever it is you're going to give, I want to invite you to cut it in half. Yeah, I just said that. Cut it in half and give the other half to an organization or a place, a people, a family, an individual that is struggling, that you see doing good work in the world, and maybe they need a little assistance. Give it to them so you can be part of the joy project in the world, because we have got to be part of this project of creating and spreading more joy. So whatever you're going to give, I invite you to just cut it in half tonight and give that other half to someone else. If it's $5, so give $2.50 to someone who's in need of a cheeseburger. If it's $5,000, give $2,500 to someone who's in need, an organization in need, whoever it is. There's no boundaries on that giving stuff, because generosity is truly one of the ways we experience the deepest forms of joy. Now, there are 3 ways to give here outside of the giving boxes. One of the ways is you can just download the app. It's free. It's free spiritual community, and you can give there. You can do weekly, monthly, bi-monthly. You can do a one-time donation, or you can simply go to the website freespiritualcommunity.com/give, or you can text the number on your screen, and it will walk you through a simple set of instructions. Your generous giving grows the mission. It sustains the mission here at Free, and I'm so glad. I mean, y'all listen. It is truly so good to be with you on a week where we are exploring joy going into Christmas next week. You know what? It's been a minute since I've talked about the wagon, hasn't it? You know, let me tell you the story of the wagon. Do I got time? Oh, man, I got like 7 minutes. Are y'all ready for this? I'm going to do it in 2. Now, the wagon is right outside the door. Someone in this community just got a tattoo of a wagon. We'll show you that another time. It is totally bad. It's totally cool. It's the actual wagon. It's Stephanie, and she got this tattoo, and it's of the actual wagon that's just outside these doors. And she was baptized in this wagon just a few weeks ago, and it's got the free logo on it. Anyway, that's not the story of the wagon. Let me tell you the story of the wagon. Because our giving boxes used to sit on a wagon. When I was at the largest rescue mission in the country, the LA Rescue Mission, I was getting a tour and I was walking around with the executive director, and he took us to the top floor. And on the top floor is where they have all their memorabilia. It's a picture wall. In the center large picture was this picture of a wagon. And I said, dude, what's the story of the wagon? He said, oh my goodness, you don't know the story of the wagon. I said, no, apparently I need to know the story of the wagon. So he said, let me tell you. This wagon would go out at night in the roughest parts of LA in the late 1800s. Yes, there were still rough parts of LA. And this wagon, it's how the organization started. It would distribute like food and clothing and Bibles and other essentials. And then at the end of the night, this wagon would welcome people to get on and head back to a place of recovery and connection. Now, what happens when you get a bunch of drunk people on a wagon? Some of them fall off, which was mind-blowing to me because I said, is that where we get falling off the wagon? He's like, you said it. When these people fall off, because this wagon was so clear in their mission, the ones on it, they were so clear of where they were headed, a place of safety and recovery, they would stop the wagon, and some of them, the sober ones, would jump down and help the ones who were intoxicated get back on the wagon because they knew where they were headed. And when I heard that, it was about 4 years ago now, I said, man, that's what the church should be. Where did we lose the plot? And that, if we ever start something, our primary image is going to be a wagon. Which is why, is that a wagon or is it this side? Is it this side? Yeah, I always forget which side because I can't see it. But that's why I got a wagon on my neck. Stephanie, I think it's why you got a wagon tattooed on you. Isn't it beautiful? All right, y'all. That's the story of the wagon. I got to tell that more often. So when you see the wagon out there, yeah, there's a story there. We're working on getting it printed up, and we can post that story above that wagon. But man, it's a central image of this community, and it's always been an image of this community from day one. And the wagon reminds us, what don't we do here? No, say the full sentence though. We don't do shame. God doesn't do shame. We honor our own journey when we accept where others are on theirs. All right, yes. Are we doing questions now? Yeah, let's have it. Yes, congratulations, Ricky and Jamie. Yes, I saw that. How beautiful. They flew out here from Texas a few months ago to be with us. And anyway, congratulations to y'all. Shall we go out with prayer? I invite you to open your hands if you're comfortable doing so. It's one of the ways we invite God in. It's a sign of openness. You can also put your hands straight up in the air. Open yourself to the work and the movement of Spirit all around you. Open yourself to joy. And let's go out with the Lord's Prayer together. If you don't know it, it's on your screen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. My brothers and sisters, my free brothers and sisters, this week may you be reminded joy is always inviting you into the present moment. So stay aware, be present, and joy is always generous. It never withholds. It never stands back. It is always generous. So may you experience all kinds of joy and grace and peace this week. And we'll see you in 2 weeks, 2 Saturdays.